Okay, I just want to preface this video by saying a couple of things. 1, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars. 2, I love Dave Filoni. 3, this video is going to be all over the place, so just buckle up. Greetings, hello, salutations, hi. Welcome everyone, welcome to the channel. I am Gabriel Fast. I do claim to be the Wannabe Critic. Now, if you can tell by the title, this video is going to be centered around Star Wars The Bad Batch. That being said, I have to ask first of all that if this is your first time here, if that you consider subscribing, it would mean the world. If you're a podcast listener, I would appreciate it if you give me a review, a fair review that you see fit on your podcasting platform of choice. Although I think Apple is the only one that you can give reviews for, I think. So, I don't know. But Star Wars The Bad Batch, we have 2 episodes now. 2 episodes, it's going to be a week-to-week series. There's supposed to be 16 episodes in total by the end of this thing. So, I just kind of wanted to voice my concerns / the things that I like about the show. First of all, starting off with, I like what I've seen so far. I don't love it. That first episode we got in Aftermath was really just kind of a banger of a beginning, a banger of an introduction to really kind of bridge the gap and kind of get us acclimated to a time period between the Clone Wars and between Rebels. And that I think episode 2 just kind of expounded on that. But you look at these first 2 episodes, you have Aftermath, and then what's the second episode called? Cut and Run. Now, basically, the first 2 episodes, they're really revolving around getting to know the Bad Batch, kind of seeing, Crosshair's departure from the group, and kind of, he's kind of the only one whose inhibitor chip really was activated the way it was supposed to be activated. Everyone else in the Bad Batch was kind of unaffected by the order of Order 66. It was super duper cool to see Caleb Doom, aka Kanan Jarrus, in the first episode. Kind of got a little bit more of his backstory, and I guess it makes sense for Filoni to kind of tie those things together and kind of, get the fans of, Rebels to kind of start pairing some things up. And I think that there were some other things that were done too, like, with like the chain code and stuff like that, with all of the people and kind of tying that together. And they're really trying to get us invested in this time period. The only problem is the Bad Batch itself was a really cool idea. I like the troopers, and whenever this series was announced, however many months ago, 6, 7, 8 months ago at this point, I was kind of skeptical because I liked the Clone Wars, but I didn't love the Clone Wars. And it's the same thing with Rebels. Like, I like Rebels a lot more than I like the Clone Wars, but it still didn't hit like peak Star Wars feelings for me. So I was kind of worried that, the Bad Batch would kind of fall into a similar feeling for me. We're only 2 episodes in at this point, so I'm not trying to be too harsh on the show, but already it feels kind of like we are getting classic fillery type tropes, even with the second episode. I had really high hopes for the second episode right after the first. And of course, it was kind of cool to see the family from the Clone Wars and, be able to see those characters again. And but at the same time, had I not seen the Clone Wars, I wouldn't care about those characters. I wouldn't care about, seeing Caleb Doom's, master get killed. It doesn't mean as much to me. And I think this is kind of a problem that we've gotten into, and we talked about this on the podcast too, about how Disney and the creators for Star Wars at this point are kind of making it be this thing of you kind of have to have the complete picture. Because I think the majority of people that are going to be watching these shows and consuming this content are going to be people, or a good portion of those people are going to be people that have seen it all. But at the same time, I also think that there's also going to be a huge portion of the audience that isn't going to connect the dots in the same way and isn't going to appreciate it in the same way because they haven't watched the animated series, is plural. And it's the same thing like whenever we had Ahsoka with The Mandalorian. Like, it was kind of this feeling of, okay, that's cool. Like, Ahsoka's awesome. I love Ahsoka. Like, she's like Luke Skywalker awesome for me at this point. Like, I think she's just as good of a character, if not a better character than Luke Skywalker. But had I not gone through the journey of the Clone Wars, it would not have meant as much to me to go through everything. And it would not have meant as much to me. It would have potentially piqued my interest where I would have gone back, and I'm really trying to put myself in a casual viewer standpoint. I take my wife, for instance, who is interested in wanting to go through the Clone Wars, but just can't make herself to go through an entire animated television show show for children. Now, we make this kind of this argument all the time about, is Rebels for kids? Obviously, Rebels is a kid's show, but the things that they talk about and the things that they do in the show are pretty politically, driven. Things that are happening are pretty, there's a lot of political intrigue going on throughout the entire show. And even as an adult, kind of a lot to keep up with. So all these questions just kind of filter around in my mind. It's like, is it going to be the same thing of you have to have seen it all to connect the dots and have it hit the same way? I didn't realize, at first that there was going to be 16 episodes. I thought this was like a 10 episode run, and I was like, wow, they really wasted an episode with the second episode. And I'm not trying to discount, Omega. Omega's a cool character. Obviously, Omega is the girl clone that has become a part of the Bad Batch, in their squad. I also think it's really, really cool kind of seeing the Bad Batch, they kind of slipped under the radar, especially in that first episode, whenever Tarkin is really trying to kill them, and they just will not go down because Tarkin sees them as a threat. And having that be a canon piece of lore, it kind of, flips there's all kinds of things that go around in my mind, that jostle around in my mind, what is going to happen to the Bad Batch? Are we going to get super attached to these characters only to have them basically perish by the end of it? I think it's doing a good job in instilling emotion and getting me attached to the characters, but the things that are happening, it was kind of jarring to go from that first episode to that second episode, in my opinion. And I understand, you gotta have fillery type content, right? There has to be some sort of filler, and it is kind of driving the plot along. And who knows, maybe it will, reveal itself, the point of that second episode will reveal itself later on in the series, with the family. I think his name was Cutter, right? Or something like that. But as of right now, it's just, I don't want to say the whole series is meh. I have a lot of thoughts kind of floating around in my mind, and, I feel like I'm a content creator, so the best thing to do is to just get it all out there. Get it all on the table. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, there's going to be people that misconstrue what I say. There's going to be people that think I'm hating on the show or being nitpicky or whatever. No, I'm doing what Star Wars fans do. We're having a conversation about, Star Wars content, Star Wars related content. And we're asking questions of, does it match the rest of it? Because for the most part, I do think there is a barrier to entry whenever you get into these Filoni stories. They are really good, but they also require a little bit of homework. I'm not sure if that is a positive or a negative. I just think, everyone consumes their media differently and consumes their content differently. So it's going to hit different for everybody. But that's my ramblings for these first 2 episodes of The Bad Batch. And I really would like to know what you were thinking of The Bad Batch, because you probably have a lot more insight and a lot more positive things to say than I do. And again, this isn't meant to be a huge complaining thing or anything. I wanted to talk about it, and, no one was available. So there you have it. I just want to thank you if you made it all the way to the end of this video or this podcast. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for doing so. It really, really means the world. Make sure you peep the description down below for the various projects that we have going. And before I go, check this out. Whatever possessed you to check out the podcast or the YouTube channel today, I just want to say thank you so much for doing so. If this is your first time here, I would appreciate it, if you would consider subscribing. As you can tell, it's not just me here anymore. I mean, I do stuff by myself, but the podcast is going to reside here from now on, in video form. So if you want to see more content, if you want to be notified, every time we post something, whether it be a clip, a podcast, a review, an interview, whatever it may be, if it's gaming stuff, make sure you click that bell and hit the subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Thanks for sticking around, and thank you for preparing yourselves for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. I'm Gabriel Fast. I will always be the Wannabe Critic.